which was the one topic of conversation through the length and breadth of England. For a whole day my companion had rambled about the room with his chin upon his chest and his brows knitted, charging and recharging his pipe from the strongest black tobacco, and absolutely deaf to any of my questions or remarks. Fresh editions of every paper had been sent out by our news agent, only to be glanced over and tossed out into a corner.
Of witchcraft.
Yet
And witchcraft became very prevalent in those days. They started to get involved in the various Eastern mysticism.
Medical education in the United States.
What's the result of this?
A report of the Carnegie Foundation for
today
Advancement Teaching
is
by
that prayer is taken out of the schools.
73, 5 years after they married, Priscilla left and took up with her karate instructor. People close to Elvis say he never got over it. Of all the women in the world who fell for Elvis Presley, he chose this one. Meet Priscilla Presley, the only woman Elvis married and the woman who bore his only child. They met when Elvis was in the service, stationed in Germany. Priscilla was only 14. She was called an Air Force brat. In 1973, 5 years after they married, Priscilla
they would give themselves freely.
I remember just constant, absolute terror, and I can't explain how intense, how strong, how all-encompassing that terror is. Unless you do this, you're going to get killed. You're going to die.
I'm serious. I told him about you and in fact to meet him. It sounds very, awful. That's exactly how it happened. When I asked my parents were very him out to see if it was okay. And I went, and from that moment on, we started seeing each other.
On this program here at the outset, we will have but one guest for the duration of our tomorrow program this time, whose name is Joey. Joey is the author of two books. One of them is called Hit Number 29. The other is called Killer, the autobiography of a mafia hitman by Joey. And I guess for fairly obvious reasons, Joey tonight on this program, because it is a television exercise.
Which I now know is levitation. Okay, but I know that's what it
that you look for if you're looking for a story to film.
Whether I want to or not, I seem to gravitate toward that. As a matter of fact, I'm doing preparing a script now with Mr. Ernie Lehman, and we're working on the story, which shows an innocent couple getting involved in very important abductions of people, kidnapping. I know nothing about it.
When you're doing this, I don't mean to interrupt you, but when you're doing this, like putting together a scene, the one that everybody likes to talk about is the shower scene in Psycho, or that one especially. Can you feel what you think the audience is going to feel when they're watching that, when you're putting it together?
I hope so. Except that a scene like that took me 7 days to shoot. Because although it was only on the screen for 45 seconds, there were 78 separate pieces of film joined together to get that stabbing and that effect. One hopes they will. can't predict.
Concert would have to be my best
But I've
first
been,
date.
you know, around long enough to know what audiences, how should we, may I say something vulgar to make the audience feel, you know, there's not a dry seat in the house. I mean, that's the aim.
If you don't know how to do that, nobody knows how to do that.
It takes a lot of design to knowing audiences by what they feel. It's like suspense.
Great, I haven't seen music.
Suspense comes out of giving an audience.
Gone so long. Which one did you have in mind?
Classic Jungle Book.
Yes, I'd like the 7 and 7 on the rock side.
Very good. And you, sir?
A blank maker.
Is when women like that, when women project towards that kind of maternal or secretly so affectionate, kind of nurturing and forgiving. I certainly was confused with that for most of my life. It's like, I think I discovered it as a teenager.
Do you think women really understand the primal sex drive that is coming from being man?
I think that
Men sex is like food. I mean, you must eat every day because you're so hungry. And with men, that hunger is almost daily basis.
I agree with you. I think very few women understand that. I think I sort of
Cheese won't work either.
the way I look at women as a lesbian is the way that men look at women. This is why I think that I have an understanding as a scholar of sexuality. A lot of my insights are coming from my own duality perspective.
You know, I remember in my mother's kitchen there was a book called The New Settler Cookbook, and it said the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. They were a little north, you know. Richard and Boston, hello. Yes, sir, you're on.
Hi. My question is just, isn't your movement motivated by envy or resentment against rich women who went to Harvard and Yale? I mean, for example, you're not at Harvard or Yale. Is it really just motivated by poor immigrant girls, you know, and their resentment against rich women at Harvard and Yale who happen to be feminist?
Richard, what do you base that question on that Camille has written more conception on?
Well, I happen to see her at Harvard.
Right.
And I noticed that I think she tries to be intentionally shocking.
Through the windmill. No, it's because guys like these, it's somewhat
is really,
of a bad attitude.
well, it's addressed to lower class types, you know? I'm sorry.
Richard, that's fine. Camille, your reaction.
Okay, fine.
Well, I think that there's an awful lot of women
Richard, I'm glad you called. Thank you for your perception. All right, bye-bye. Before we leave here, just one loose end. Why did you get into a fist fight on the dance floor at Bennington?
I want to spend 3 hours on a totality of my physical.
Yeah, but why on the dance floor at Bennington? Why, I hear you punched a guy.
That was a couple of years earlier where I
What the fuck do you want? I want to see your driver's license. What for?
let me go? Look, I just want to see your driver's license. It's in the car, I'll get it.
Most people have drawn inner boundaries they don't want crossed. And sometimes the blade is there to guard those boundaries.
Here's my license.